So with Chinese herbs, again, one of the things that we do really well is build health. And so we have a lot of herbs that we consider tonic herbs. So they're restoring your body. A lot of us are running at a deficiency in this day and age. We're working too hard. There's not enough time. Our sleep is poor. We're not eating as well as we'd like to. We're not getting outside and connecting with nature, not connecting with each other nearly as much as we would like to, or as we actually need as humans who are very social and tapped in and connected to the environment and the earth. So Chinese herbs, I think of as a beautiful way in order to bring nature within our bodies.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Ancient Health Podcast. I'm your host today, Dr. Chris Motley, and today we have a very special episode. You know, I'm all about Chinese medicine, and we have a very special guest, Dr. Chloe Weber. Now, I'm going to go through her bio, but I want you to know and read into this how much she has accomplished, and it makes me feel like I haven't done enough in my life. But Dr. Chloe Weber, Chloe's journey into the world of health and wellness is nothing short of remarkable. From a high school diagnosis of cutaneous leishmaniasis in Costa Rica to her deep dive into ecology and evolutionary biology at CU Boulder, she began to unravel the intricate relationship between diseases and our environment. Chloe's path didn't stop there. Her quest for knowledge led her to the world of Chinese medicine, where she earned a master's of Oriental medicine from Southwest Acupuncture College and even studied at the Heilongjiang University Hospital in Harbin, China. After graduating, Chloe co-founded Urban Herbs, a nonprofit slide-scale walk-in Chinese herb clinic, combining her passion for herbs with community outreach. However, life took an unexpected turn when Chloe's son, Remy, was diagnosed with STX-BP1. It's a rare and challenging genetic disorder, and this led to Chloe to immerse herself in the study of epilepsy and developmental neurology. Not one to be deterred, though. Chloe founded Radical Roots, a groundbreaking company merging the power of Chinese herbal medicine with high-quality hemp to bring hope and healing to those in need. Chloe, along with Remy and 3 furry friends, now reside in beautiful Boulder, Colorado. Today, she shares with us the invaluable lessons she's learned on her extraordinary journey. So, dear listeners, get ready to be inspired and enlightened as we delve into the world of holistic health with remarkable Dr. Chloe Weber. Chloe, welcome to the Ancient Health Podcast. We are really thrilled to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Motley. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Oh, well, I'm really, really thankful because whenever we discuss Chinese medicine or Chinese herbs, and I'm really wanting to allow people to hear the accolades that you've done with this, because behind the herbs that you produced, people want to know the journey. And I'm really thankful for that because with the Ancient Health Podcast and working with Dr. Axe, we've always looked into like how can Chinese medicine describe people and tell their journey, tell their life history. And when I meet other individuals that are deep diving into Chinese medicine, I always want to learn. So whenever I hear your story, when I hear things from you, I'm like, man, I need to make that part of my repertoire too. So again, thank you for this. And we're going to go through some really great questions. And everybody out there that's listening, remember, we want you to hear a story. And when it relates to you, these are the gold nuggets that we want you guys out there to take in. So thanks again. And I know that I'm jealous because you're in Boulder, Colorado right now. I'm just saying, because I love Colorado.
Well, you'll have to come and visit. It's a simple fix, sir.
I'm with you. I'm with you. So first of all, okay, we went through your bio. We went through and what you've been through. I think we're going to go through some questions, and I want to make sure we cover all those because I think it's very important. But can you touch a bit on on your life story? Is there anything else you want to add in? You may not want to, but I mean, because you had such a huge journey, a trial with your son and having to learn things along the way. Is there anything else you want to add about yourself?
Well, I think one of the main things that I've learned along the way, and one of the things that's driven me in Chinese medicine and in health overall, is this idea of using Chinese herbal medicine for public health interventions. That's really why I founded Urban Herbs and why I'm driving forward with Radical Roots and trying to get herbal medicine in the hands of everybody that there is. You know, I believe that herbal medicine is so much more powerful and so much more dynamic than any pharmaceutical could ever be, much like our bodies, right? Like in Western medicine, we think we can break down our bodies and our systems into this one pathway. And if we just hit this one pathway the right way, then everything will be fine. Our bodies are much more dynamic than that, and that's something that we learned from Chinese medicine. And so I'm really blown away. I'm super honored to be a practitioner of Chinese medicine. I'm really passionate about helping people understand how to build health through herbal medicine instead of responding to disease with pharmaceuticals. And on top of that, my other great honor in this life is, as you mentioned, being Remy's mom. So being a mom and a single mom of a child of a rare genetic disorder was not something I expected. And our life has been filled with so many challenges. I can't deny that in any way, shape, or form. But Remy has also been the greatest teacher that I ever possibly could have hoped for. I am so fortunate that he is truly one of the happiest humans I've ever met. I mean, this kid really teaches me so much about embracing the little joys and the little bits of magic in every day and every moment, and having so much patience and appreciation for life. It's truly been such a gift and such an honor to be his mom. So I consider myself very fortunate to do something that I love and to be able to learn from this incredible human. So it's a joy.
I think that one of the things that you talked about just now was teachers, and I think that people out there listening, going, "Yeah, that those journeys and those trials become your teachers." And I've just recently tried to get into that into my own heart. I mean, literally lately, it's like you can always look at a steep hill. You can always be climbing up the hill and go, "Man, it's the steepest hill I've ever been." But could you look at it like I'm going to stop in the middle of it and look over the horizon and see how beautiful things are in life? And what did it teach you? And what did the other person have to sacrifice in their life to be your teacher? And it becomes one of those
Mm-hmm.
philosophical quandaries that you go, man, they had to go through the fire too. And I think it's what we're going to talk about as we go through this podcast. So, Chloe, this is all going to be about you, and this is going to be great. So, for the individuals out there that want to know about Chinese medicine, I'm learning. I'm going to write down notes. Let's go through some questions, and I want you to answer them like in the way you want to, all cool and easy. So, first things, you just talked about the power of Chinese medicine, Chinese herbs, and I think that we both deal with a lot of conditions. We work with a lot of patients. What makes the herbal medicine, a Chinese, background, so different from our Western medicine standpoint? I know that, like, what is like the main difference? Because some people don't even know. They're like, why would I even take an herb compared to a medication? Because a medication would, quote, could work faster. Maybe. We don't know for certain. But what makes the difference?
Definitely depends on the herbs and the situation in terms of speed and efficacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with Chinese herbal medicine, what I love so much is in Chinese medicine, what we look for are the underlying patterns of disharmony within the body. And you know this, obviously, as a doctor of Chinese medicine. But instead of just looking at the presenting symptoms and saying, oh, you have a headache, we're looking at the patterns within your body that are leading to the headache. So that headache could be because you're eating too many cold foods and your digestion is a bit wonky, or because you're extra stressed out and you have this energy rising up to your head and causing a headache. There could be all sorts of reasons for the headache. But instead of just looking at, oh, you have this headache, we're going to try and dull it out. We're actually looking at the underlying patterns that are leading to this disharmony and leading to these symptoms. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I love so much about Chinese herbal formulas, is that we're not only addressing the symptoms that you're presenting with, but we're actually addressing those underlying patterns of disharmony, and we're able to build health over time. And so one of the things that's been really fun with hemp research that's come out is
Mm-hmm.
everybody's talking about the entourage effect, right? So they're like, oh, well, if you get a full spectrum hemp extract,
Mm-hmm.
it's much safer and much more effective. And they're looking at, because we have all these different phytochemicals from the plant that you're getting in the extract, that makes it much safer and more effective than the isolate of the cannabinoid. But in
Mm-hmm.
Chinese herbal medicine, we've always used whole plant medicine. And then we use different herbs together in a formula dynamically. So you're not using too much of any one herb. And then these herbs are also layered and formulated in a way so that they're really supporting the body in a very safe and effective way. And they're really, really balanced. I mean, it blows me away. Again, for anybody listening, I always want to highlight that in Chinese medicine, we are standing on the backs of millions of doctors and thousands of years of evidence-based research. So this is not me or Dr. Motley's research. This is the research that we are honored to be able to practice. And it is clearly stood the test of time. So it's really dynamic and really, really effective.
I love the way you put that. I think that we're going to get talking about your CBD supplements, and even our producer Lindsay was talking about how great they are, and I've been testing them at my office, and we're going to go into that because they're amazing. They truly are. I think too, when we talk about the cause and effect, I think I love the way you put, like if something was causing, overheating internally or dampness. And I love the way that Chinese medicine looks at something as being cold or hot, damp, moist, or dry. And it's just basically we're saying, okay, the body internally can have these types of effects. And what are the herbs and what is the energy behind the herb that could actually bring balance to that overheating? And I just think it's it's commonsensical to think that an herb, like, oh, if an herb can create that, then that could actually lead us back to the original issue that created the overheating mechanism instead of just saying, oh, I'm going to create this headache. And we talked about it when we jumped on a phone call a while back that when you look in Chinese medicine and we look at herbs, we also seen through the thousands of years of research that certain herbs help certain organs. And you can really trace back all these things back to organs and organ balances. And that's what's the beautiful thing about herbs. So when we have these herbs and now we're combining them with, we have people are just saying, okay, Chinese medicine and now hemp and CBD, and you're combining it and you're starting to see that CBD, does it have like a faster effect? Does it this accentuate things to help you with some of the symptomatology that maybe it's a little bit safer, a little more healthier than Western medicine? But talk a bit about that, about the combination with the CBD.
Yeah, well, I thought CBD was sort of a joke trend when it came out. I'm from Brooklyn. I live in Boulder, Colorado. I was like, oh, obviously weed and cannabis does have very well researched medicinal qualities, but I was like, whatever, this is just a silly trend. But Remy has intractable epilepsy, which means that he has epilepsy that's not controlled well by Western medications, which Western medications, especially for epilepsy, are very harmful for the brain in many ways and have very low efficacy. It's pretty embarrassing, honestly, to the Western medical system. If you go into the world of pediatric epilepsy, they really do not have much to offer our kids, and it's devastating. I mean, there's truly nothing I would never wish epilepsy on my worst enemy. Not that I have any. It's such a horrible and challenging disorder. So when Remy was diagnosed, I started researching CBD because that was what it was getting to be known for. And I was really interested in it. And then once I fell down that rabbit hole, I haven't gotten out. It's been 5 years. So the research on CBD is just absolutely incredible. So from its anti-inflammatory abilities systemically, whether we're talking about the gut or the brain, its ability to regulate the vagus nerve. It works on the 5-HT1A pathway in the brain, which is the same pathway that SSRIs work on. It
Wow.
increases neurogenesis in the hippocampus. I'll try not to get too nerdy, but seriously, if you look into CBD and its ability to support the body, the research is there. The research is incredibly strong, and it's such a dynamic and powerful plant.
Yes.
So the reason why it works so well for so many different things and works so quickly is that we have the endocannabinoid system. So this is basically, one of the major systems in the body. It actually develops before the nervous system in utero. So that shows how important it is. So this system, we can consider sort of like the master regulatory system. It's trying to keep your body in what we look at as like the Goldilocks zone. So not hyper responding, not hypo responding. In Chinese medicine, we might refer to it as the middle way, which is something I always like to advocate for people as well. So it really regulates inflammation and how your body and your brain is working, especially when you're under stress. So we have these endogenous cannabinoids that we make internally. So those are called anandamide and 2-AG. So these cannabinoids that we make within our bodies are used up and then they're broken down after they're used. So when we're under a lot of stress, we use up our endogenous stores of cannabinoids really quickly. And as you can guess, our society is under a little bit more stress than we are used to as humans. This is, I always like to say we were born to go into fight or flight when the tiger comes around or the bear comes around every couple months. Now we're in fight or flight every time our phone dings. So we're going through these endogenous cannabinoids really quickly. So that's why CBD has been such a dramatic shift for so many people who got on it.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, the market is really challenging. And so it got flooded with a lot of really crappy products and a lot of people who were just looking to make a quick buck. So I think a lot of people got a bad experience with CBD, spent a lot of money on products that really just weren't as good as they were touted to be. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here, is because I really believe in the power of this plant. I know how important it is for so many people in so many different conditions. But again, it's swimming up tide when it comes to the field of hemp overall, because it is a really challenging market to be in.
Oh, I could imagine. I think that when you talk about the power of CBD, and this is coming from somebody as in the audience, you said there's not the best quality of product, like you just mentioned, and some people would say, "Hey, I tried CBD, and this doesn't really work for me," or I had, a negative experience, like it made me feel a little more anxious. Okay, so the endocannabinoid system, I've heard and I've read, please correct me, doc. Like, does that mean like your cells have like receptors on them, right? That can actually attach to cannabinoids, right? And I've heard that
Mhm.
certain individuals can have a higher affinity for it. Some people may have a lower, but it does depend on the quality and the type of the cannabinoid, right? So that they can actually absorb it well, so they have a better experience with it. Can you touch on that a bit?
Yeah. So people are sort of, there's this idea of endocannabinoid deficiency again. So once we're running through these stores, we used to have hemp in our food and in the food of our animals. So we
Mm,
used to get exogenous cannabinoids through our food, and now since that was taken out of our diets, this is a different way that we can get them.
mm,
Some people are a little bit more sensitive to it. So with the endocannabinoid system, we have different receptors. So we have the CB1 receptors in the brain and the nervous system, and then the CB2 receptors are primarily throughout the body and more so the immune system in the gut.
mm.
So THC, which is the cannabinoid that's known for its psychotropic effects, that's what you're going to find in cannabis and marijuana, right? So that causes the stereotypical high. That's a cannabinoid. That works directly on the CB1 receptors.
Okay.
Whereas what CBD does is it breaks down some of the enzymes that break down anandamide. So
Mm.
trying to break it down so it's a little easier for everybody listening to understand. Basically, what CBD does is it makes our endogenous cannabinoids more bioavailable for us, so we're
Wow.
able to use them more and
Yeah.
reuse them. So that's why I think it's sort of funny, because there was this whole trend where people were saying, well, you got to get your DNA testing for CBD and find the right strain and blah 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 blah. And I was like, really, what CBD is actually doing is just making our own endogenous cannabinoids more available to us so we can reuse them instead of having them broken down right away. It works almost
Yeah.
like an SSRI in some ways. So I was like, I don't see why you would possibly need that, because it doesn't make sense intuitive to me. But who knows? Maybe they know something I don't. It's
I,
certainly
hey,
possible.
this is great. No, this is what we need to know, because people out there, because do you find, doc, like even now, there's like a stigma sometimes when people say like hemp or CBD along
Mhm.
with THC, and then I think personally, like people go, oh, there has to be something kind of wrong with it because it's kind of associated with marijuana or pot. And I was like, every plant has its medicinal purposes. And I sometimes think that people will not want something to work. I mean, internally, they may not want it to work because they're like, there's such a stigma to it. But now I would think the funniest thing is that some of the people in my life that I thought would never try anything with hemp, you know, have tried it and they're like, did you know that this stuff has really helped my, and I said, yeah. And it surprises me, that people are like, they loving it.
It can work very acutely, but yeah, I always joke that if somebody's not scared of hemp, they're scared of Chinese herbs. So
It's truly, that's
I've
just
got my
exactly
work cut
right.
out for me on the education.
Exactly the truth.
They're
And,
like,
and
the
when you,
herbs are coming from China?
yeah,
And I'm like, every single herb is tested, like every herb that we use is tested for potency, quality, heavy metals, pesticides, all of the things, to the extent that if an herb is not clean enough that I can get access to it, we won't have the formula until I get the herb clean enough. Like, I'm that much of a maniac when it comes to our quality. Um, But yeah, it's amazing the people who fall in love with hemp, and it's because it's so effective. I mean, if I get dental work done, I just take a bunch of CBD. You know, if I have a
Oh,
migraine, I take a bunch of CBD. It can work very acutely for, especially for pain management, also for anxiety. I get emails all the time about people who are dealing with cancer, autoimmune disorders, GI issues, you know, IBS, all sorts of different inflammatory and autoimmune issues. And CBD can change people's lives really, really quickly. But it's also one of those things where a lot of times, you know how it is with acupuncture.
yeah.
People will be dealing with a chronic issue for years. They'll go to 10 different doctors and get no help whatsoever. And then they'll come and get one acupuncture treatment and they'll be like, well, the treatment didn't cure me. And you're like, it was one treatment.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
it still is an
true.
herb. It's still, the reason we pair it with Chinese herbs is so that, again, you're building the health over time. It's also giving your body and your nervous system the space so that you can build up more healthy habits so you can continue to heal on your journey as well. So I like to say both, it can work very acutely, but also give it
Oh,
a
I think
moment
it's
as
always
well.
exactly the long game. And we're going to go. I want to tell my story, but I want to hear this is so great because when people don't realize for the long game, like your personal experience, I want to talk about that. How did it help when somebody like, when your son has a rare genetic disorder, he had epilepsy type, the seizures. What was the effect? Like, did it take a long time or did you notice when you started using it? I mean, what was it triggering in your brain? Like, I got to try this. We're going to start. What went on?
So with Remy, I mean, again, seizures are the worst thing I could possibly imagine. Another thing I like to point out is that Western medicine will still literally do lobotomies on some children who have disorders like Remy's. That is how it works because they're like, oh, well, we can't stop the seizures, so let's just cut out this part of the brain. And as we know from Chinese medicine, often that wind just switches to a different part of the
Yep.
brain, which happens a lot. And sometimes it does help, but imagine how desperate a parent has to be in order to agree to cut, to brain surgery for their child,
Oh,
to remove part of their brain. That's how desperate a lot of these families are in situations like me and my son's. So
hmm.
luckily Remy's seizures were never quite that bad, but they were bad enough that it's really scary. A child could die from pretty much any seizure that they have. And it's truly something that, you have to live in fear of as a child with such a rare and unique genetic disorder.
Hmm.
So with REM, I started trying all the different CBDs. And then as an herbalist and a doctor of Chinese medicine, I was like, this is just not the way we do it. In Chinese herbal medicine, we have thousands of years of research of using this polypharmacy, using all of these different herbs together to create these dynamic formulas to make them safer and more effective. And I knew that Chinese herbal medicine was the way forward. And I knew that hemp played a large role in that also, and they could potentiate each other. So I actually reached out to a bunch of the bigger companies because I was like, I've started businesses before. I do not want to start a business again. This sounds like a horrible idea. But nobody was interested. I was like, I'll write formulas for free. I just want product. I don't even care. I just want this to be out there in the world. But I didn't really hear back. So finally, I stopped my feet long enough and then just did it my damn self like a stubborn mama from Brooklyn. Um, but with REM, so I bought a bunch of hemp and I cooked it in my house and I wrote my Chinese herbal formula, Remy's Revenge, for him. And I threw it in the slow cooker and I started giving it to him. And immediately he started sleeping way better, which was one of the main things that was a really big challenge for me,
Yeah.
was neither of us were sleeping whatsoever. And then Remy also has like Parkinsonian like tremors. So he tremors pretty significantly. And I noticed immediately that those had pretty much stopped.
Wow.
And Remy's seizures are pretty inconsistent. So he has clusters where he'll have like a week of clusters and
Mhm.
then he pretty much won't have seizures for a while. But you can see sort of that underlying abnormal brain activity through the tremors, through his sleep dysregulation, and through a lot of other things that you can notice about his nervous system when you're as in tune with your child as I am and as every other mom listening to this is with their child.
Yes.
Um, so he dramatically shifted once we started the formula. His seizures started to drop off. They lessened in their severity and their frequency, and then the rest of his nervous system seemed to regulate very dramatically also. And that's honestly why I ultimately started the company, because I just knew that I had to get it out to other kids and adults with neurological disorders, despite my aversion to getting into the field.
Starting your own business, you're like, I really don't want to do this again. But I mean, with
Like,
that
this is
though,
a horrible idea. It's still a horrible idea.
Doc, come on, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. Like with this though, when you're dealing with seizures, as severe as that is, because it's a hard journey. When you say deal with adults with neurological, does this also help individuals with like ADD, ADHD, OCD? I mean, maybe that's just a question that you'd be like, no, duh, Chris. Like, but I mean, have you seen good results with that? Because a lot of people say yes. I know people with seizures. I myself have ADD. What like that spectrum? Does it go over that whole spectrum?
I've seen it help almost anything, any neurological condition. So according to Chinese medicine, Remy's formula, what it does pattern wise, and I actually give out the raw Chinese herbal formula to anybody who wants it, because I don't believe that to be like knowledge that I want to keep to myself. So if anybody is averse to CBD, I haven't made a CBD free product. I will give you the raw dosage of the formula. You have to work with your own practitioners and make sure that that's right for you or your child or whatever you're working with. But I do not keep that formula as a proprietary formula, because I truly believe it is the best formula I've ever written. And I think one of the strongest neurological formulas that I've ever seen. So in Chinese medicine, what we're doing is we're acutely bringing the energy down from the head into the body. So you can think of that for any of those disorders that you're talking about. So, in Chinese medicine, wind disorders, epilepsy is what we call a wind disorder.
Mm-hmm.
So anything where you're going to see a tick or a tremor. I've had a lot of patients use it who have MS or Parkinson's, as you said, OCD, Tourette's, even like panic attacks or intractable, like insomnia. People who have a really hard time with insomnia, our Rest and Relax crushes it. It's by far our best seller. But
Mm-hmm.
if people have that really, really severe insomnia, even, remedies can be super helpful at just bringing that energy back into your body and really anchoring that powerfully. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much any sort of neurological condition, Remy's Revenge is the one that I would recommend starting with. And then you can always play around with some of the other ones and see what the pattern might be, especially if you're working. I'm very fortunate and very honored that so many acupuncturists do sell our products and use our products. It is a great honor to me, because these are my colleagues who I think are the most highly trained in herbal medicine that there is. So if they're choosing our products, then that means the world to me. But so a lot of them understand the pattern presentations very well also. So I wrote the formulas so that, they're very safe and effective to take off of the shelf for your presenting symptoms. But if you're working with a practitioner, you might be able to fine tune that a little bit as well.
Wow. Okay. So you had the fine tuning. You say that it worked really well with his seizures pretty quickly. We talk about acupuncture, and so when you use Chinese medicine, you talked about using acupuncture. Can you give us a description about that? I mean, I'm not trying to shift gears too much, but like with Remy and such, you're a Chinese medicine doctor. So can you explain Chinese acupuncture and its relationship to using it in conjunction with the herbs and its effectiveness?
Yeah, so acupuncture, in Chinese medicine, we have the 12 different meridians, and there are different acupuncture points throughout the body you can use, especially with kids. They respond so quickly to acupressure, even, and just energy work. And even if you think, it might be a little woo-woo or outside of your scope, just hold on to different points of your kids' feet, hold on to the bottoms of their feet when they're feeling really anxious or you're getting them ready for bed. And you can help feel their energy shift down into your hands and calm them down. You can feel on their backs and just sort of start playing with that and see what you can feel. But in Chinese medicine, we're really looking for the free flow of what we call qi and blood throughout the body. So qi is really the energy of the body. And we look at the stagnation of qi can cause all sorts of different problems.
Mm,
So one of the things that stagnated qi causes is stress. So if you're stressed, then your qi sort of gets stagnant. A
hmm
lot of women will know if they have stagnant liver qi in particular by how their cycle is being regulated. So a lot
mm,
of times if your chi is stagnant and you have a lot of stress, you're going to see that you're going to have more cramps with your cycle. The cramps are going to come probably before your cycle, maybe day one of your cycle. You might see more clots in your blood. Um, in men, you might see more irritation, frustration. You see that sort of red face. So that's a stagnation of qi in the liver in Chinese medicine.
Mm,
Another way that you're going to see stagnation is also in pain. So we always say where there's pain, there's stagnation in Chinese medicine. We like to warm things up to get them moving as opposed to cooling them off. So that's sort of a big difference between Western and Eastern medicine in how we address pain. We normally like to heat things up. And so our topical is actually really warming, which is very different than most of the topicals on the market, which are filled with menthol, which is a cooling herb.
yeah.
So, with acupuncture, what we're doing is we're really tapping into these different energy meridians and reminding the body what it's supposed to do,
Hmm.
reminding the body how the chi and blood is supposed to flow throughout the body. So it's not changing anything. It's not supplementing anything. It's just this beautiful reminder to the body of who you are and how you're supposed to work. And it helps really nicely reset your parasympathetic system so that you're able to calm down and accept some shifts and change. And actually, it's interesting because acupuncture actually affects the endocannabinoid system. There's some really cool research on that has been coming out recently, which is really, really fun. So they
I
do
think
work very well synergistically.
I got to get in touch with you about
Yeah.
that more because that stuff really doesn't, enliven my brain. Because when you're talking about like using acupressure, like for your children, like I think that's a big thing that I see with your feed and with your information is like I want to be able to help families, and you just graciously said I'll give you the formulas, but you can use acupressure, right? You could use the herbals together. You could do cannabinoid system, the CBD. Because I had to say firsthand, like with the stuff that you sent to me, like testing it out, I was like, this stuff is super strong, but it's in a good way strong. And can, like when we talk about Chinese medicine, I love how you put down some things like this is a chronic issue. My kid has a very acute issue. Can the CBD and the herbs be used like in an acute situation, chronic? Can you describe that? Like when we're treating like a condition, like you think, okay, here's the in between, here's a chronic state, here's an acute state. Can you use your products, which I believe you can, but how do you use it in those types of conditions, in those type of states?
So with Chinese herbs, again, one of the things that we do really well is build health. And so we have a lot of herbs that we consider tonic herbs. So they're restoring your body. A lot of us are running at a deficiency in this day and age. We're working too hard. There's not enough time. Our sleep is poor. We're not eating as well as we'd like to. We're not getting outside and connecting with nature, not connecting with each other nearly as much as we would like to, or as we actually need as humans who are very social and tapped in and connected to the environment and the earth. So Chinese herbs, I think of as a beautiful way in order to bring nature within our bodies. And so it helps with that nature deficiency in some ways that I think a lot of research is looking into now, which I think is so fascinating. But in doing that, it's also truly building health. So it's building your resistance, building your resilience, and making you healthier over time. So that's why I like taking Chinese herbs and why I like taking hemp day to day. But you can also use them in acute situations. Like I said, I use it for dental work all of the time. I refuse to take Tylenol or aspirin at this point. I just take, a whole bunch of CBD. And luckily I have a whole bunch of CBD at my ready. So that helps as well that I have a lot of tools in my toolkit. But it blows me away how effective it is when I'm having some sort of acute pain. I think I threw out my back a year ago and I was terrified because I still, Remy's mobile now. He can walk. He didn't until he was about 6. But Remy is about 60 pounds. And so when I threw out my back, I was terrified that I wouldn't be able to pick him up and get him into bed and get him onto his chair and get him into his adaptive stroller. And it was amazing how beautifully the herbs work acutely as well. So that's one of the things that I think the CBD is super duper helpful for. But again, combining it with the Chinese herbs makes it so that we can use less of each herb and really still potentiate the actions, make them so much more bioavailable and so much more effective.
I like that when we talk about like when combinations about how people can treat like their families, like you're actually giving people the leeway to understand that you can actually use CBD and the herbs and acupressure to actually help your family with specific types of conditions. And we're not saying that you can cure everything with it, but that you can actually take the power back into your own hands. Now, with this though, when people don't understand the full potential with your products and such, do you have? I know you do probably, but do you have like more education pieces on your website that people could go and read more about the CBD and what it's effectively doing with the herbs?
No, we don't. We do on radicalremedy.org. So this is a fun thing to point out as well. So along with never ever being able to run an ad for my company because there are so many restrictions around CBD, I
Yeah.
cannot say absolutely anything about my products on my website. Otherwise, my credit card processor gets shut down and
Really?
everything gets shut down. To the extent, yeah. So Flow State is a formula that I have. It's based off of a classical Chinese herbal formula, Xiaoyaosan, which is called Free and Easy Wanderer. So
Yeah.
this formula is used to move the liver qi and support digestion. So it's great for stress. It has incredible research behind it for its anxiolytic and neuroprotectant properties. It's something that's phenomenal for helping women balance their cycles and regulate their cycles. So on my website, I wrote, Flow State is based off of a classical Chinese herbal formula that supports women's health. And they shut down my credit card processor for a month. I was like calling them up crying. I was like, I'm a single mom. Why are you doing it? It was awful. And I was like, that's not a medical claim in any way, shape, or
No.
form. That's literally the most vague thing I could come up with. I didn't say fertility, endometriosis. I didn't say anything. I just said support women's health. So on our website, if you guys go and look, it is a little bit confusing because basically we're like, rest and relax. We'll help you have a day. Like that's literally what I can say. So I recently built out a blog site called Radical Remedy. It's radicalremedy.org. And then I have a new podcast on there, which hopefully I'm going to get you on very
Oh,
soon.
I'll be on there. You just name
Um,
and I'll do whatever. This is great.
but so I put some articles on there so I can actually add some research on there. And
Mhm.
also I'm very available to people. So you're always welcome to email. I have it on our website on the contact us page. I set up 2 hours a week where people can set up like 15-minute consults with me so I can help you troubleshoot which formula is right for you and what's going on, and also get to talk to people and help out in any way that I can. So
Oh man, this is great because I love talking even more depth about like the constituents of CBD and like you gave us a good avenues. Now, one of the things I do get asked about though, I know when you talk about chronic and acute, and you talk about stagnation. When people out there, you talk about the female, situation about reproduction, and I hate that you got shut down from that. But that's a big thing that I didn't realize how much CBD could help with reproduction in the reproductive system. Can you touch? I mean, is it really good for the female ovaries and for the uterus and such? Have you seen that a lot in your experience?
it's incredibly helpful. I mean, there really is not a part of the body that CBD is not supportive of. And then also pairing that with the wisdom of Chinese herbal medicine. I mean, Chinese medicine is hands down, in my eyes, the most dynamic system when it comes to women's health. There is no other medical system that honors the cycles of a woman's month, like the variation within a woman's cycle
Mhm.
or the seasons of a woman's life. In Chinese herbal medicine, in Chinese medicine, while there's a whole line of gynecology, and that's one of the most esteemed professions in Chinese herbal medicine because the women were the mothers of the emperors. And
Mm,
so though the emperors were the ones that were important, the women were the ones who were bringing these leaders forward. And so gynecology in Chinese medicine is a huge field. We're incredibly effective with Chinese herbal medicine at it. I've never seen a patient who has been trying to get pregnant for longer than 3 months without having a successful pregnancy. It is so easy, so safe,
wow.
so dynamic. I probably shouldn't make that claim. I don't know, but it's just true, and it's such an honor to me as a woman and as a mother to help other moms and women get pregnant. It's such an honor to help support women who are dealing with so many challenges that Western medicine really just doesn't understand. That is an area where Western medicine really just puts a band-aid on things. And
Yeah.
Chinese medicine, I highly, highly, highly recommend any woman out here, please go and try working with a practitioner. Hit me up. Our herbs are phenomenal for it. but it's really, really safe and effective. And the way that CBD helps dynamically with the herbs is incredibly synergistic and effective. So really, really
I
powerful
agree
medicine.
completely. Because, Doc, I mean, when you say like many times when patients they're trying to get pregnant and try to heal the reproductive system, and even I have other practitioners in the area, they're acupuncturists and herbalists, and they have such a high success rate. And when you talk about stagnation and you say it's needed, and I see that with your products as you start to develop for the reproductive system, it's so much needed because when you talk about stagnation, the idea that something could be clogged up or sludgy, and all we're trying to do is get it out of the sludginess and get it unclogged and allow some vibrance and some blood flow and electricity to get to it, and that it could actually work properly. And I think that there's such a stigma, like in our culture, that okay, if you have PCOS, if you have cysts, you have fibroids, oh, you're stuck with that, and there's pretty much nothing you can do about it. And I know you've seen it, and I've seen it too. I mean, not from my work per se all the time, but I've seen people, I've seen individuals where they say, "Oh, we don't have any more cysts or any more fibroids," and sometimes their practitioners, their healthcare practitioners, they go, "What did you do?" And we're like, "Well, we just put her on some things to help her with her liver stagnation and got a little bit more blood flow to this area because she had a little bit more infections in these areas." And I'm not patting myself on the back or anybody else, but the practicality of the herbs. That's what gets me is like what you're doing with your products it's practical. And it's, when we talk about like taking out the wind for the seizures, when we're taking out the dampness, I'm like, we find the herb, we find the condition it helps with, and you can help solve it. So with all of this, I want to talk about your line. Okay, so where do people find like, is it Radical Roots? Like, is it, where's your website? I just want to hear it because people are going to be like, where's it at?
The website is radicalrootsherbs.com. And
Mhm.
then, as I said, the other site that has some more information in the podcast is radicalremedy.org. Um, so yeah, everybody's welcome to reach out if they need any support in it. And to tie on to what you're saying, I think the beauty of Chinese medicine again is that it really just honors our bodies and our minds in a way that Western medicine just really doesn't understand. And one of the reasons why I got into Chinese herbal medicine more so than acupuncture was because as a Westerner, as somebody who grew up in New York, it resonated with me that I was able to look up the pharmacological actions of all the Chinese herbs, right? So I could
Yeah.
hear the Eastern energetics and learn about all of that, but I also got the Western. And so there's so much research on each and every one of these herbs. But it's funny because as I go through this journey, the less I care about the pharmacological actions, the more I really just understand the like dynamic beauty within Chinese medicine that makes it so powerful and so effective. And it's sort of funny because that also mirrors my journey with Remy. When we started out, for me, it was such an intellectual journey. I was like, I took him to Ecuador for 6 months where we were doing hyperbaric and neurofeedback and all these different things. And I studied everything I could get my hands on. I became an ultimate biohacker. I did all the things, right? And
Mhm.
then at a certain point, it was like, it's a spiritual journey. Like it's really not, it's not as academic as it needs, like just see your child and love him for exactly who he is. And, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to do everything I possibly can to support him and his development and his health. But it also means that I am going to enjoy the ride and appreciate every lesson that he's so lovingly giving me every single day.
Oh, I want to ask you this though. I mean, we've been going on fine. I know your time's important, but I can see the heart you have for Remy and your journey. I just want to ask, when you went through it, was there desperation? I know it's a hard thing to ask and stuff like that, but with the feelings in your heart, because then does it affect? I always think that when people have certain types of feelings in their heart, they put that much more energy into the products they produce, and people feel that. I truly believe that they feel the heart behind it. Like when what was I know we're sort of backtracking, but like what were the things that you were healed? He's your teacher, but what were some of the main emotions that you felt during that time, and that like when you were going through it, when you found out all the things that he's experiencing?
Well, so Remy wasn't diagnosed till he was 2.5. So we had done multiple rounds of genetic testing before he even got diagnosed. So I had this severely, severely delayed and disabled child who wasn't even crawling.
Mm.
Yet we had no reason for it. You know, it was just this pervasive developmental delay diagnosis. And so that was terrifying, and it was also empowering a bit because it gave me a lot of time to learn about alternative ways that I could work with him. And even with Remy's genetic disorder, it didn't change his Chinese medicine disorder diagnosis. You know, it doesn't change his pattern in Chinese medicine. So whether,
Yeah.
you know, and that's another important point, whether you have a diagnosis or not, Chinese medicine has a lens that we can work with you no matter what your Western diagnosis is, or whether you don't even have a Western diagnosis. So that was
Mm.
one of the
Mm.
things that was a really beautiful lesson for me as well. But yeah, I mean, it was those first couple of years were absolutely devastating. And then getting the genetic diagnosis, I mean, you know, I truly didn't think that he was going to get diagnosed ever at that point. I went to the geneticist by myself, and he told me, you know, he was like, it's an extremely rare genetic disorder. He's likely going to have, you know, very severe epilepsy, very severe cognitive disabilities, Parkinsonian like tremors. He was like, yeah, he has tremors, right? And I was like, great, thank you. You know,
Oh.
he's like, he's probably not going to walk because his tone is so low. He has such low muscle tone, you know, like
Mm.
I was just mind blown, you know, and the doctor was so crude. He was literally just like, I've never heard of it before. I printed out one research study, but I didn't have the time to read it. And so as a medical practitioner and as a human, I was absolutely horrified by this guy. And luckily I don't drop his name on podcasts or send him mean mail, which I wanted to for many times. But it's, you know, it was terrifying to me, you know, and then learning more about the kids. A lot of the children do regress and pass away in their teens and 20s, whether it's from epilepsy or with a lot of these rare genetic disorders. The issue is with a specific protein. So for Remy's disorder, it's the syntaxin binding protein. So it's a specific protein that helps the neurons communicate. And
Mm-hmm.
not only does he not make enough of it, but they misfold and then they aggregate in the brain. So
Oh.
for anybody who's listening who has either a child with a rare genetic disorder, or maybe has a friend who has a child with a rare genetic disorder, because they are getting more and more common, unfortunately. And I think the research, unfortunately, will mirror my experience with that over time,
Mm-hmm.
but not quite there yet. Basically, these proteins aggregate in the brain much like amyloid plaques do in Alzheimer's. So you'll see sort of a regression in these children, which can lead to death. And so obviously it's as a mom, it's absolutely terrifying. There's also the sudden unexpected death in epilepsy, which is
Mm-hmm.
basically SIDS for epilepsy. And for a child with such severe epilepsy as my son has, you know, he has a 1 in 200 odds of passing away in his lifetime of SUDEP. Uh, and this is
Mm-hmm.
a kid who has a 1 in 20 million genetic disorder. So, you know, to put that in perspective, there's nothing more terrifying than that as a mom. But on the flip side, I also the one thing that is more terrifying is not living me and Remy's life, whatever that looks like, to the fullest, you know,
Yeah.
and embracing the life that we do get to have together and the joy and every day. So I think that it's, you know, this drive as a mom to make sure that his life is as full and as happy and as healthy as it possibly can be. And for me as his mom, no matter what I've been through, I truly know and I truly believe that the most important thing that I can do for him is to show up and to be happy and to be present with him as much as I possibly can. So those
Mm.
have been some of the hardest lessons and some of the things that really drive the products. And I often say that I don't know whether our products have helped Remy more or me, because they did truly bring me back to life from pretty extreme burnout that I had put myself into those first couple of years of his
Mm.
life. So I'm incredibly grateful for the formulations I have as well.
That's what I love to hear. I mean, I know the people out there do too, and you know, when you know the passion behind it, and the you know the heartaches and the heart and the triumphs, and that makes a product just you know has more life to it. And I can tell you this, like you know, my mama Chong, I call it, and she's a little Korean woman, and when my mama Chong responds really well to an herbal formulation, then I know it's a good one. And I don't say I'm the judge of that, but I will say this: it has a lot of, it's clean, and I want everybody out there to truly go and check out the Radical Roots, and I want you to look into Radical Remedy podcast as well. I look forward. I'm just inviting myself on, but it's not. But I'd say this: when you look
I
at,
already invited you.
it's going to be great. I want to when I come on there, but I really want to talk about like the cleanliness of it because, when I do some of the testing, I see how it accentuates the organs, like you just said. And I really appreciate when you talked about, like, when I look at patterns. So everybody out there, what Doc is talking about is that no matter, like she just said, if something's been carrying on for a long time or a short time, you're always going to find like a pattern, like, oh, this person has a gallbladder pattern, and you're going to find those routines in their body. And you're going to go, they have a gallbladder issue that's been there. No matter if it's been, we found it out an hour later. It's like, it's been there for the time, and we have to fix that pattern. The thing I love about your products is that whenever I check in on people, it etches away quicker, and it changes them to allow me to find the next organ that needs to be checked out. And I'm like, yeah, like that is what a good product is. So guys, please check it out. If you have problems sleeping, if you have any type of neurological issue, please check it out, because again, if it helps Mama Chong, I'm telling you, it can help everybody. Chloe, so we have a book that you wrote. I believe it's called Unearthing the Chinese Medicine Way, right? And it's an ebook.
Mm-hmm.
And where can people find you? I know we talked about your website, but what about Instagram or on social media? Where can they find you?
I'm pretty bad at Instagram, but you can check us out at Radical Roots Herbs, and on TikTok at Radical Roots Herbs. I also have Radical Mom on TikTok and Rad Remedy on Instagram. I'm trying to get better about it. It's a love-hate situation, Radical Roots is largely just me, so there's only so many hats I can wear without losing my mind, and unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm never willing to compromise my time or energy if I feel like I'm being too depleted. But I do love trying to share information, and I'm hopefully going to be putting out a course to help support other special needs parents in terms of the ways that they can, really, make the most impact on their kids in terms of their health through a lot of the things that I've learned without sort of going crazy. And that course will also probably be available for neurotypical parents as well, because all of our children need as much support in terms of their neurology and development as possible. And I've learned quite a lot along the journey. So hopefully I can help pass that forward a little bit as well, too.
Definitely. And Doc, when you get that, just send it my way. I'll promote it as much as I can on my page because people need it, and it's really, really needed. I'm thankful that you came on here. I think that we could do another podcast. I think it would be great if we could talk about about female reproductive health. I know you touched on that, but I think that, even though you get nerdy, and I do too, I think people really want to know that. I think they want to know, like, what is the ins and outs of like stagnation or what that represents. So let's do that if you don't mind. That'd be great. I just wanted people to get a really good introduction.
Well, I think that Chinese medicine, again, I think it's an incredibly powerful system for women's health, and then which is really important and overlooked in Western medicine. And it's also a way that people could really get a glimpse into how Chinese medicine works and how we differentiate the patterns so that they can start taking control of their health, which is really a lot of what you and I are doing with our platforms and trying to help empower people to start building health, take control of your health in your day-to-day actions. Again, I know when I was super burned out, I just sort of had to start with myself and be like, okay, you're not even taking your herbs, Chloe. So I created this formula golden ticket that I would add to my coffee in the morning, because I was like, if you're not taking your herbs, you're going to take your coffee. Add some herbs to your damn coffee and figure it out. And I always like to say something is better than nothing. It's like, how can you start building health, whether it's, a 1-minute meditation that you're hiding from your children, whether it's an extra walk around the block, whether it's taking the stairs when you could take the escalator. It's those little micro habits that really start to add up, that start building health. But yeah, when it comes to women's health, I think Chinese medicine is an incredible framework for people to start really understanding what we do and how effective it is and how they can start integrating it into their lives.
I agree. I'm thinking this is great. I mean, this has been a great interview. I'm really appreciative and thankful, Doc. And we want everybody out there to please visit her website, visit her page. And if you guys have any questions, remember, we're going to have this information in the show notes. So if you guys want to find out more, I know that Dr. Chloe was telling us that she's going to put out a new CBD cream that's going to be for pain, and that's coming out, right? And then it's going to be able to just help wipe away some of that painful joints and that stagnation. So I'm looking forward to that because I need it for my neck. That's going to be great.
Yeah, no, it's a great one. You'll love it.
Okay. So from all of us here, guys, at the Ancient Health Podcast, I'm your host for today, Dr. Motley. And Dr. Chloe, thank you so much for joining us. She'll be on again, guys, so she won't be a stranger. And if you guys have any questions, please let us know. If you like what you heard today, just drop us a comment, subscribe, like, save this webpage to your book. What do they call it? The bookmarks on there? I don't even know technology that well. But anyway, from all of us here, we thank you. Thanks, Doc, again for joining us.